everyone, welcome back to Sociology class. Today we'll be dealing about class structure. So first let's look at the meaning of class. Class means categorizing people based on wealth, education and occupation. जब मान्छेलाई चाहिँ आफ्नो wealth, education र occupation मा categorize गर्छ त्यसलाई चाहिँ भन्छ class. So we have already discussed about caste issues and what is caste. Okay, so today we'll see only one major difference between caste and class. So caste is ascribed and class is achieved. So what is the meaning of ascribed? Ascribed means by birth and it cannot be changed. So the जुन चाहिँ caste मा belong गर्नुहुन्छ, जुन चाहिँ caste मा you are born, you cannot change it. So until till your you cannot change your caste, and class is it is achieved. It is not by birth. It can be changed with effort and education. So supposing if you are born in a very poor family, but then you work hard, you study well and you earn more, then you can move upward. You can be like in middle class or higher class, but then you cannot change your caste. If you are born in a lower caste, then you have to stay in the lower caste, but then class is not by birth. It can be changed with effort and education. So now we'll move on to the rural class structure. So after independence, there was abolition of zamindari system. We've already discussed what is zamindari system, and there was introduction of land reform system, and we've also studied about what happens in land reform system and what happened in zamindari system. So after the abolition of zamindari system and when land reform came into being, there was the peasant class. The peasant class was also divided into three groups: rich, middle, and the poor. So the peasant class was divided into three groups, and those were rich, middle, and poor. The rich peasants, they had large holdings of land and they didn't perform any agricultural activities. The middle peasant, they were self-sufficient. They had small amount of land, but they were self-sufficient. And the poor peasants, they were landless peasants. So they had to work either in the field of the rich peasants or in the middle class peasants. So that was a peasant class, in which was divided into three groups, that was rich, middle, and poor. The rich peasant, they had large holdings. Middle, they had considerable small amount of land, but they were self-sufficient. And this poor peasant, they were also known as agricultural laborers. They didn't have much land holdings. They were poor, and they usually worked with the rich and the middle peasants. So the next class in the rural structure is the artisans. So artisans were involved making things with hands. They were like carpenters, ironsmiths, potters, etc. Who were they? They were artisans, potters, ironsmiths, etc. So they did works with hands. They made stuffs and things with their hands. So after independence, during the British rule, they were largely hit by the British rulers because they could not compete with the mass manufactured goods produced by the British industries. So during the British time, industries were set up, and all these artisans, those who were these artisans and craftsmen, they produced things with hands. They couldn't compete with industries. They couldn't compete with the big industries, so they were badly hit. So after independence, the government has taken several steps to improve the conditions of the artisans. So the government has taken several steps to improve the conditions of the artisans because they were badly hit during the British rules. Why they were badly hit? Because they couldn't compete with the large manufactured goods which was produced during the British time. So even these artisans are these groups, they have subgroups, like some are highly skilled, some are semi-skilled, and some are less skilled. So even under this artisan class, some are highly skilled, some are semi-skilled, and some are less skilled. Okay, so this was the second class, and that is the artisan. So the first class were the peasants. They were the rich peasants, middle peasants, and the poor peasants. And the second class were the artisans, who were badly hit during the British era. And after the British era, the government, they took several steps for these artisans. And even under this artisan class, there are three types of groups: highly skilled, semi-skilled, and less skilled. So now we move on to urban class structure. Urban means towns and cities. So the first class is the commercial and the industrial class. So what do we understand by commercial and industrial class? Means the person who set up big business and industries, they are known as commercial and industrialist class. So after independence, fields like industry and trades were given in the private sector. Fields like industries were given in the hands of private sector. So due to which there was phenomenal rise in commercial and industrial class. So all these industrialists and commercialists, they had a phenomenal rise after independence because it was given in their hands. Okay, so they were like heavy industrialists, commercial classes. So they are for example, you can see industrialists in India are the Tatas, Birlas, Ambanis, etc. So commercial classes means the industrialist classes who are on the top. Okay, so after independence, so all these industries and commercial activities were in the hand of the private sector. So there was a boom, there was a phenomenal rise in the number of industries and those who owned them. There was a phenomenal rise. And for example, all these industrialists and commercialists are Tatas, Birlas, Ambanis, etc. So the next class is the professional class. So in the professional class, we have doctors, teachers, engineers, etc. So in the professional class, we have doctors, teachers, engineers, bureaucrats, okay, management executives, etc. So they belong to the professional class. They are professional in their own profession, means like they are well educated and they are called professional classes. They are the doctors, teachers, engineers, etc. So the next class, we have traders and shopkeepers. Due to urbanization and due to mushrooming cities, we see there were like many traders and shopkeepers. Okay, so they work in small scale production, crafts, and small businesses and small shops. So due to urbanization, we see the rise in this class, and they are the traders and the shopkeepers. So the next class is the fourth class, is the working class. So working class means the daily wage laborers, who are manual laborers, who work in construction companies or other manual laborers like in tea gardens, etc. So they are known as the working class people. That was the fourth class. So today we did about two class structures, that is the rural and the urban. In the rural class, we talked about the peasants. And even in peasants, there were three categories: rich, middle, and poor. And the next class were the artisans. And they were subgroups: highly skilled, semi-skilled, and low skilled. So we studied about two classes. One is the peasant class and the artisans. The rich peasants, they had large holdings of land. The middle peasants, they had small holdings, but they were self-sufficient. And the poor peasants, they had no land. They worked under the rich or the middle peasants. They were the agricultural laborers. And the next we studied about artisans, those who made stuffs with their own hands. And even artisans, some are highly skilled artisans, some are semi-skilled, and some are low-skilled. The artisans were badly hit during the British era. Why they were badly hit? Because they were not able to compete with the British industries. Because the British industries, they produced in larger numbers, because they didn't use manual labor, they used machines, so they couldn't compete. So after independence, government took several measures for these artisans. Okay. So next we studied about the urban. In urban, the first one is the industrialists. So what did we learn here is, after independence, the industrial sector were given in the private hands. So the industrialists were at greater, they were at greater rise. So there was a phenomenal rise. Okay, so the industrialists were the Tatas, Birlas, Ambanis, etc. Okay, who owned and controlled the capital. They made big industries. All right, and second were the professional classes. So in the professional classes, they are the teachers, doctors, lawyers, etc. And then we saw traders, shopkeepers. Traders and shopkeepers, they boomed due to urbanization and mushrooming of new cities. And lastly, we saw the working class. So in working class, they were the daily wage laborers, those who do work manually, and they get their salaries, like they get pays every day. They get paid every day. And so this is the lesson that we learned today: class structure, rural and urban.